Testing 1 2 3 4. Testing, testing.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Board of Education meeting of October 8th, 2025. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we did not have executive session this evening, and you can see Natalie's not with us. She's not feeling well tonight. We hope she feels better. Okay, so it's hard to believe it's already October, and we're more than halfway through the first quarter of the school year. Time truly flies, and it's great to see everyone settled in and the district moving full steam ahead. Tonight, we're joined by PKF O'Connor Davies, who will present the annual financial audit. This is always a valuable meeting to listen to if you're interested in how the district manages and reports on the annual school budget. It also serves as something of a primer as we head into budget season. Speaking of which, at our next meeting, we'll begin discussing parameters for the 2026-2027 budget. So yes, budget season is just around the corner. Yeah. A few important points to keep in mind about the audit. It provides an independent review of the district's finances. The auditors reviewed the financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2025, along with related notes. In their opinion, the statements fairly present, in all material respects, the district's financial position as of June 30th, 2025. As they walk us through the findings, here are a few things to consider. We saw higher revenues than budgeted, largely due to additional state aid and stronger than expected interest income. Expenses have continued their upward trend, something we've discussed often, especially in areas like special education, transportation, and healthcare. It would be helpful to hear from PKF about what they're seeing in other districts regarding these pressures. Each year, the district plans to use a portion of fund balance to support the budget, and that's called being in an operating deficit. While that term can sound negative, it simply reflects the planned use of funds. In fact, our actual use of funds came in lower than expected if we remove the purchase of the house on Franklin Place. The audit also includes our debt obligation schedule, and perhaps PKF can speak to maybe some of the factors that drive these levels of debt service, such as the age of our buildings. With facilities in our age range, it's expected that the district will have debt for capital improvements. What matters most is ensuring that the vast majority of our school budget supports instruction, which it clearly does, and also ensure that the school facilities meet today's standards and the demands of today's learners. The auditors noted our AAA bond rating, our low fiscal stress score, as well as community support of our annual budgets, for which we are truly grateful. These are all indicators of strong financial management. In addition, there was an internal audit of our HR processes. Mr. Ricky and Dr. Fitzgerald can provide an update on steps underway to ensure that HR record keeping grows stronger. I'll note that payroll, a key HR function, had no issues, which is very important. I also want to thank the 47 applicants who responded to our call for committee participation. We were able to place 28 people across our committees. Dr. Champ and I reviewed every application carefully, considered prior service, providing opportunities for new voices, relevant professional background, particularly for bond steering, and each applicant's reason for wanting to serve. Committee members will be notified this week, I think.
Today?
Yeah, I saw some go out today.
They're in process today.
Yep. I'd like to mention a few items not on our agenda. First, there's been some interest expressed in the community to explore the International Baccalaureate program at the high school. This program has been reviewed by the district several times before, and while IB is a strong program, We must weigh it carefully against our very successful AP and elective programs. Both IB and AP can coexist, but any move towards IB would require a thorough cost-benefit analysis to ensure that AP and our broader curriculum remain strong. Personally, I believe our high school program is already rigorous, supported by dedicated teachers and staff committed to fostering critical thinking. The outcomes speak for themselves. Our graduation rate, our four-year college matriculation rate, the caliber of schools our students attend, the participation rate of our students in college-level work in high school, our award-winning science research and music programs, 77 students graduating with the Seal of Civic Readiness in its second year, and of course, our strong state and national rankings. That said, I'm also wholly open to ways to make our high school program even stronger. And we have district leaders like Dr. Comerford, Dr. Callahan, Dr. Titone, and others who have experience with both IB and AP models. As the district continues to unpack New York Inspires and identify areas for growth, IB can be evaluated in that context, alongside our current strengths, goals, and available resources. I'll just emphasize that any system-wide initiative must begin with recommendations from our educational experts. That's essential to the success of any program. Finally, also not on the agenda, but given the recent Pelham Examiner article regarding Mr. Johnson's resignation, and to address this to the extent we are able, we sent a statement to the community. We will not be discussing the statement, personnel, or legal matters at tonight's meeting. I will only say that as a Board of Education, we must always balance our duty to act in the best interests of students and staff with our fiduciary responsibilities to the district. Ultimately, with all things considered, we believe the outcome was appropriate. I also want to thank Mrs. Kramer-Gilbert for her continued leadership at Siwanoy. Her extension is on the agenda tonight. And finally, we remain deeply committed to identifying Siwanoy's next long-term principal. Thank you. I know that was long, sorry. Thank you.
2.1.
Okay. We can move to 2.1. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 16th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Any Any comments or questions on the minutes? No? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, so the minutes are approved. Next, we have our superintendent's report.
Great. Thank you so much, Jackie. And yes, start of the school year, it still feels like the start, but we are definitely knee-deep in things and tremendous amount of things going on. Tonight, just wanted to start with the announcement of some student, annual special student recognition, and that is National Merit semifinalists. We were really excited to have two of our high school students identified this year, Armand Brumette and Eloise McGibbon, are both selected as New York as National Merit Scholar semifinalists.
Amazing.
So congratulations to them and their families. That's based on their performance on the PSATs. They will have the opportunity then to apply to move forward to finalist level, and with that is a chance to compete for scholarships as well. So we're incredibly proud of them. Congrats to them and their families for that fine work and how they represent Pelham Memorial High School. As you said, there's so many great outcomes, and Armand and Eloise are two examples of that. I got to eat lunch with them at the Rotary Scholars of the Month luncheon with Mr. Llewellyn this past week, too, so I got to know them a little bit. And Emily, can't remember Emily's last name right now. There was a September and October. McGibbon, yes, I think it's Emily McGibbons. And another student, Sam Bonanno, could not be there,
Yes.
but will be there next month.
It was during her AP bio exam, so.
Okay, she made a good choice. We'll catch up on her luncheon next month. Also, some other recognitions and appreciations. We were not in school on this day, but we did not want it to go by without notice. October 2nd was School Custodians Appreciation Day. So our buildings around the district did many things to recognize and appreciate them. They do an incredible job. So I also want to take a moment just to recognize them, thank them, all the members of the custodial and grounds team who work so hard, their attention to detail and care for our buildings every day, really keep our buildings in such an outstanding condition. And as we've said over the years, our programs have grown, our facilities have grown, our custodial staff has not grown. They continue to absorb and to really step up and do an amazing job. So thank you to that team that's under Mr. Ricky's department and Mr. Condon's supervision. So congratulations to them. Also, another congratulations. We were really excited to physical education teacher Nick D'Ambrosio from Prospect Hill, who was awarded by the, I can never say it, New York AHPERD, which is New York State Athletic Health Physical Education, something in dance. Where is it? R. What's the R? I knew it the other day. I looked it up. Recreation. Thank you. Yes. New York State Athletics, Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance Association. Thank you. Nice job. That is the state kind of governing body of school athletics is where we usually refer to it. But for Mr. D'Ambrosio, he was selected as Elementary Physical Education Teacher of the Year for New York State by that professional organization. You know, he's very deserving. For those who know him, he's incredible. We have such a talented physical education staff, and Nick is just an amazing to watch when you put him in front of children. He just does magic. So we're so proud of him. He's a very humble person. He doesn't want attention, but we can't let something this important go by. So we're really excited for him. He will be honored at an upcoming dinner at their annual convention. And we just want to congratulate him too and thank him for the incredible work that he does every day for our kids. A couple other things coming up, some events to be watching for. We got a couple tomorrow. Well, tonight we have the Pelham Roundtable that's going on as we speak. None of us are able to be there because we are here. Pelham Together, thank you. Roundtable. Tomorrow, a couple different events. We have our Seal of Civic Readiness information session. As you said, this past year we had 77 students graduate with that Seal of Civic Readiness. Tomorrow night, Mr. Sirico will be doing an information session for parents and students who want to find out more about that. It is a remote meeting and it will be recorded so that folks can watch it the next day. Because they may also want to go to another event that's going on tomorrow night as part of our Pelham Ignites, the Elements series. We have author Sam Keene coming at 6:30 tomorrow in the Pelham Memorial High School Auditorium. There are still tickets available, so we would encourage folks to come. He's the author of The Disappearing Spoon. So I cannot say that I've read it, but I hear it's very popular. So we appreciate the work that Dr. Callahan in partnership with Mindset have done to organize this among many other events throughout this year to get us excited about chemistry. Additionally, next week is homecoming week at the high school. So please check out the athletics schedule. There's lots of different games throughout the week. Certainly Friday night is usually one of our biggest attended games. And then there's games also on Saturday for folks to come to and different games throughout the week. So we encourage folks to come support all of our teams throughout the week and celebrate them. The high school is doing certainly a spirit week. They're changing things up this year. Instead of a pep rally, they found a way that they're going to be celebrating teams throughout the school day. And then the day on Friday will culminate with a barbecue festival out on Ingalls Field so that everyone can join in the celebration. So very excited about that. Another upcoming event to make folks aware of, again, with our partnership with Pelham Together. I know Tracy Holtz works with them, planning lots of events throughout the year. They help to set up different parent workshops as part of our partnership with them. And they work with the secondary schools a lot. So one of the exciting events we have is Max Stossel is coming to do a parent series, Social Media and Your Kids. Strongly urge parents to plan to attend this. It's October 21st at 7 o'clock. Right here in the library. I've heard him speak. He's very engaging, really powerful message. He's a kind of a tech insider, so he really knows this stuff from the inside out. Also, he'll be doing assemblies with our 8th graders and 9th graders adjacent to that activity. So great opportunity to, this is Digital Citizenship Month. So Max brings a great perspective to that, and we appreciate Pelham Together coordinating that so we can expand the offerings to our parents and our students. Finally, one thing, and it will tie into our updates on bond steering that'll come later in the meeting, but I just wanted to report yesterday, and thank you to Catherine for coming by. We held a Siwanoy neighbor coffee as part of our engagement process for planning for implementation of the capital bond that was passed last May. Specifically, we recognize the unique impacts that the Siwanoy project is going to have on neighbors. It's a very small property, very close neighborhood, and with anticipated construction for several years, we want to be attentive to that community. So we had a great turnout. About 25 folks came. We spent some time just kind of giving an update on where we are with the projects, which we'll talk about when we get to the bond steering update. But then also get a chance for them to ask questions, because this is part of this process is hearing from them what works, what doesn't work, what are some things that we don't know about that we should be thinking about as we start into the design process, because we now are going from the 2% design that we talked about before the bond was passed, now up to the 60% design level with design development that will be going on this year. So a lot of the questions that came out had to do with areas of communications. How are folks going to be hearing about what's going on? Suggestions, issues related to usage of the property for us to be aware of. Logistics, a lot of questions around parking, entrance to the facilities. How will construction schedules be? You know, will there be weekend work? Things like that, which the answer is no, there is not any intended. And then how can folks be involved? So one of the things I'm hoping to do is send out some of these questions with our upcoming update. As we said last time, as we have bond steering meetings each month, we'll be updating the board at our meetings, and then as part of our board wrap-ups, we will include that new bond information so that they can be pushed out to the full community. So I'm thinking that we'll also push out the questions and answers that came up as part of that board coffee as part of this upcoming update, so that those answers are as broadly available as possible. Also, one of the things that we heard very loud and clear is certainly the neighbor community is looking for ways to remain engaged and in the know while there's opportunities for feedback and iteration of the projects. So one of the things I'm recommending, I mentioned this to a couple of the board members, just wanted to mention to everybody, I'm recommending that we establish a site plan advisory committee as more of a standing ongoing committee to provide, to get a cross-sector group of stakeholders together who are active users of that property. So neighbors for sure, recreation, junior wonders, the school staff, and to kind of make it a little bit of a bigger committee. So it's an additional committee. I'm going to be reaching out to just some of seem to be our leaders or formal leaders in those different groups and inviting them to be part of this, separate from our normal board committees. But I think as an added ad hoc through this next year in particular in design, I think this will be really critically important, because we're going to need to think about temporary playground site work adjustments as well as long-term design. So that ends my report for tonight. And I think with that too, Jim, this is a little bit of a twist. We are going to ask that we can let Dr. Comerford and Dr. Fitzgerald do their reports first before we go to the auditors.
And
Emerson.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
I'm sorry. We'll go to Emerson first, then our administrators, as they have a commitment out of state that they have to get to tonight.
They have a
So we
road
want to
trip.
get them on the roads as early and safely as possible. So Emerson, we'll toss it to you for your student update.
I'd like to thank you guys all for having me again tonight. So I have a few points. Just like I've been observing students the last 3 weeks, I think now, since the last board meeting, and there's been a lot of activities going on. First, the club fair was a tremendous success with many tables lined up in the front of the door of the high school and many students engaging with the club representatives. There were numerous at least over 30. It was a great turnout. It was encouraging to see such strong participation and interest in the wide range of extracurricular opportunities available. Also, the Wagathon was another successful event, drawing many students who volunteered their time to support and help fund the science research program's future initiatives. Much appreciation to the Kaplan family for graciously hosting the event at their home and coordinating the closure of their block for the occasion. The open house also ran smoothly, with many students volunteering to assist parents in finding their designated classrooms. And the sophomore class student government also organized a candygram station during the event to raise funds for future class activities, including things like Olympics and eventually prom, which is a year, but you got to plan for that very ahead. This primary fundraiser for the sophomore class provides students with valuable experience in planning, teamwork, and understanding the importance of contributing to their own goals and events. This past weekend, the school served as a testing site for the SAT with strong attendance from both juniors and seniors. As we enter ACT and SAT preparation season, these exams represent an important milestone for our upperclassmen, especially when applying to colleges. The National Honor Society also has officially begun its annual activities. Seniors held their first meeting last week, and juniors are scheduled to meet this coming Friday. This program continues to promote academic excellence and leadership within the student body. Fall sports are still in full swing, and many teams have hosted their senior nights. Teammates have created personalized posters for each senior, helping make these events both memorable and meaningful. Student attendance and school spirit have been strong at these events, especially tonight with all of the volleyball. That was a big one. There's lots of cars parked outside. Homecoming is approaching next week and is expected to bring even greater participation and excitement. This year's theme is breast cancer awareness, with students encouraged to wear pink in support. Students, they're student-designed shirts chosen by the student government vote, and they're available for purchase. And unlike this year is different because usually the high school will do a pep rally in order for the homecoming day, but they switched it. So this year, each period on the announcements, each team, not volleyball, but each varsity team will be able to play like a song over the loudspeaker in between the changing periods. And then at the end of the day, during ninth period, there's going to be like a little carnival-style game where each team will create their own game, and then there's going to be a barbecue in the back. So it's going to be a really good bonding experience for the entire school. And the phone ban has continued to be successful within the high school with strong student compliance. There's more engagement in the hallways as students go from class to class and converse more with one another. And then finally, I would like to share key takeaways from the recent Student Liaison Conference I attended. The role of student liaison is designed to promote civic engagement and uphold the principles of democracy within the school community. It is an active position requiring communication, outreach, and representation. Past liaisons emphasize the importance of connecting with students across the district through social media, email, and other channels to gather feedback and share ideas. I look forward to continuing that tradition of engagement and collaboration in this role. That's it.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Emerson.
Thank you.
Rich report right there.
Yeah.
Great. And I'm so glad, I didn't get to attend the student event, but I'm so glad that you did, and hope that gave you some great
Yeah,
ideas. And I know that, I was with Catherine also is, you may have heard us say that's the last time she's on the board at the Westchester Putnam School Boards Association, and I know they're looking to do continuing work to support the student board members throughout the
You'll
year.
have plenty of opportunities. Sorry. There'll be a lot of opportunities for you to continue to develop and network with other student liaisons in our area through WestPut and NISBA, so we'll be sure to keep you updated so that you can take advantage. I know your schedule's busy, but if you have the time, it'll be a great opportunity for you to continue to learn. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Emerson.
Thank you, Emerson. How wonderful is it to have student voice at this table? It's amazing. And thank you to Dr. Champ and the board for considering Dr. Fitzgerald and my travel tonight. We appreciate it. So October brings continued work that aligns to our strategic plan in the area of personal growth and achievement. October's Digital Citizenship and Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and our technology team, led by John Sabalos and Alicia Del Mastro, has curated related activities that for teachers as they continue to, and they also continue to enhance their portal for technology support that's always available, and they continue to curate that for the faculty and staff throughout the district. In third grade, something noteworthy, teachers are exploring hands-on activities in social studies, including resources from BOCES, something called the Red Trunk Project, which helps students think like historians. Middle school teachers are setting goals centered on meeting the needs of all students, and then working intentionally to connect the IB work, School of Character work, and the district's strategic plan. And I mentioned a couple times already, at the high school, the civic readiness continues to grow under the leadership of Mark Sirico and the Seal of Civic Readiness Committee, and those experiences are becoming embedded across many courses throughout the high school. So we're continuing to expand that program. Quickly, district benchmark assessments in ELA and math are helping teachers identify learning strengths and meeting the needs early in the year. Drop-in math tutoring has begun at the middle and high school levels, and science teams are working with BOCES to review the chemical hygiene safety plan to ensure compliance. Our curriculum directors have worked since last year reviewing the assessment data to inform their professional learning plan for all teachers, and that's underway in math, ELA, and science, and K through 5 has started already. Just a quick reminder, K-5 curriculum night will be held on October 16th at Hutchinson School. Tomorrow, high school students will be out on Wolf's Lane for their annual Halloween window painting event. This year's theme is Pirates and the Seven Seas. Thanks to Devin Fallon, Jane Walls, our students, and local businesses for partnering for such a fun and creative community-based activity.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So we are definitely into the throes of the school year. October 1st, for me, marks the time where everyone's compliance training needs to be completed. And so, our state and federal regulations really state what trainings our district staff need to engage in on a yearly basis. Our policies, our board policies also indicate when there's training necessary. So there's 12 trainings that currently our staff need to complete before October 1st. So October 1st came and went, we had 70%. I'm happy to report that as of today, there's 81% of our staff who are completed. And really that's a huge lift for the administrators. They got the word out. They keep reminding people to get things done, but also our head custodians who really took it upon themselves to find time to sit with their custodians, make sure the training got done, even if they sat in groups and did it together. So it's really been a joint effort to tackle these trainings and get them completed. So I'm happy that we're moving in that direction. There are more compliance trainings on the horizon. Our safety plan has a couple of tweaks that are going to happen, which is going to require AED and CPR training by January 2026. So we'll figure out how to tackle that as the school year is underway. And then if you remember last year, social services law was amended for the mandated reporter training. So all educators engage in a child abuse training, basically. They updated the training last year that all certificated staff had to complete by April 1st of 2025. That was because they really wanted to focus the training on implicit bias in the protocols and in the discovery process. They have since amended and created an addendum training for this year to be completed by November 2026, so we do have some time. The nice part is I took it the other day, it's 15 minutes, and it really is focused on how do you handle cases of possible sexual harassment or child abuse with children with intellectual disabilities. So it was a really great focused training specifically for that. And so we will be getting information out to staff so that they can begin to engage in that. Last year we did find a free web-based platform to do the training. They are also using the addendum, so anyone who actually completed the 2-hour training on their platform, when you log in, it immediately takes you to the addendum. If you did not complete it, though, you will have to do the 2-hour training before you can get to your addendum. So that's on the horizon, but we will stay on top of that as it comes. And then the last thing, I just wanted to celebrate our 12 teachers who have reclassified. So these teachers have spent time outside of the classroom, outside of their school day, outside of the workshops that we typically send them to engage in their own professional development. This could be in the form of graduate classes, in service credits, and they work on that, get all of their materials together, and there's 2 times a year that they're able to reclassify here in Pelham. The first one is in September. So you'll make a motion tonight to approve those 12 reclassifications, and then again in February. So we're really excited. Our staff is truly amazing. I know Dr. Champ mentioned it earlier. They love what they do, and they're constantly pushing themselves to learn more and bring that back to all of us. So when people do this reclassification, they do it on their own. It shows their love of learning, and we like to celebrate that as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, safe travels.
Have a good trip. Okay. I'll turn it over to you, Oh, do you,
to our auditors, to maybe
yeah.
June.
Oh, I didn't know if we wanted Tracy to go, but no.
Oh, up to you.
Okay, Tracy, would you like to do your,
Whatever you'd like me to
Yeah,
do.
go
I will
ahead.
jump right in, okay. Thank
Let's
you.
round it out.
Thank you. So it's also very busy in the special education department at this time, and a lot of what drives my world is compliance and federal and state reporting elements. So I share with the board in the report this year that each year we are required to report on certain federal indicators that are determined by the state ed department. There are 17 indicators in total. This year we have indicator 12, which is related to early childhood transition, and that's just simply submitting data. Next year, though, we have two indicators, 13 and 14. One of them, indicator 13, is about transition. When students, the year in which they turn 15, there are certain fields in the IEP that open up that we have to address related to post-secondary transition. And this is a big one. Mr. Lau and I and the new district-wide chairperson, Erica Gosling, have to participate in a series of trainings to get ready for that indicator review. And that particular review, our regional associate will come to the district. They will pull a random sampling of IEPs, which they will grade us against a rubric. But the good thing is, I've been through these a couple of times. Greg has been through one as well here, so I think we'll be well prepared to be ready for that review. As Cheryl mentioned as well, it's a very busy time. There's a lot going on. Tonight actually was financial aid night in the counseling department. That was turned into a virtual event. We had to make some shifts based on the auditorium use this week because it is so busy here. So that happened tonight, and that is to support families in planning for college through the fiscal process. They talk about the FAFSA application process and also give parents guidance on how they can approach the financial aspect of planning for college. In addition, I'm excited to share that the second annual Recreation and Transition Fair this year is going to be hosted again. This is something we do in partnership with Pelham and Scarsdale. And we also collaborate with Eastchester, Tuckahoe, Chappaqua, Edgemont, and White Plains School District. But it is a lot of planning. Greg Lau, our secondary supervisor of special education, worked with his counterpart at Scarsdale. And the fair is designed to provide students with disabilities and their families valuable information about recreation and transition opportunities. Vendors come and representatives from state agencies come to present information and highlight their programs. And many of these opportunities can be accessed through OPWDD, self-directed funding. But it's a huge uplift, and I do thank my counterpart in Scarsdale, Eric Rauschenbach. He's hosting it again this year at Scarsdale High School. But again, that's November 12th at Scarsdale from 6:30 to 9. Lastly, I do want to mention as well, tomorrow is a busy night. It is the first SEPTA meeting. So that will be held here in the middle school library starting at 7 o'clock. The guest speaker is Eric Frantino, our district-wide contract behaviorist. He was asked to speak on the topic of managing transitional anxiety. So it's an important topic. He's going to provide perspectives on how to set expectations, use consistency and routines to support students who can struggle with some anxiety and perceptive thoughts as it relates to transition and change. So we look forward to having him tomorrow night at the SEPTA meeting. And in addition, I just wanted to share this year something new for SEPTA. The co-presidents have planned informal coffee gatherings in addition to the formal SEPTA meetings. And these events are really designed to give parents of children with special needs the opportunity to connect, share experiences in a smaller, more intimate environment, talk openly about the unique challenges and joys of raising a child with special needs. And their goal is really to create a welcoming and supportive space where families feel comfortable sharing and build connections within the community with parents in buildings they may not normally come across. So It was a great idea, and I thank Ally Cox and Kristen Gulmy for setting that up. Jim,
Thank you.
now it's your show.
Okay. Hi, good evening. I've just got a couple of things that we'll open up with, and then we have our external auditors here who can give our financial overview of last year's results. So this evening, or this past week, we had an audit committee meeting where we did, the audit committee met and discussed the results of the annual external audit for the 24-25 school year, as well as an internal audit that took place during the 24-25 school year. These were good audits, clean audits. What the board has this evening are all the same reports that were discussed at the audit committee meeting. As part of that audit process, there are corrective action plans, which are also on the agenda for the board's approval tonight. The external audit, and actually our internal audits, are all posted online on the district's website under the business office. That's a requirement of the state. This evening, we don't have our audit partner. We have Melissa Zott, who's partner of O'Connor Davies. This time of the year tends to be very busy for school districts. Everyone has an October 15th deadline, and the state does a really good job of sending reminder emails out to superintendents and Board of Education presidents if you miss that deadline. We haven't missed that deadline, and we're not going to miss that deadline. But this evening, we do have Melissa Zott here and Vibharvi Kandapuram, who was our audit manager. So they'll be able to provide that overview to the board. At our audit committee, some of the things that were discussed were certain district debt levels. We know that was a discussion that came up as part of the annual budget and as part of the bond discussion this year. Right now, as we look at our annual debt levels, our total debt service is about $6.5 million a year based off of our budget. Please remember, we do receive some building aid off of that from New York State, so that we do have a net out about $1.3 million this year for that. So your net cost is about $5.2 million. Over the next few years, we're going to be seeing a reduction in that debt. I mean, that was part of the discussion last year with the bond feasibility work. Really, with another $2.8 million is the larger share that's going to fall off beginning with the 30-31 school year. So, over the next 5-6 years, we're going to see about $4.1 million fall off. If you recall, when the budget was discussed, option one was really more, it was a tax neutral option, and then doing the addition for option two was more tax positive. But at the same time, that's the addition at Siway, which we're also able to borrow for a longer term because the majority of that work is for the addition work. So that's a 20-year amortization. We're working with our architect, our OACM, and our financial advisors on our financial plan. So this is part of the work with bond steering as well, and that's some of the discussion that we're going to have next week at bond steering. We provided the preliminary construction plan to the financial advisor, and right now they're working on that model. So we have our OACM meeting scheduled for tomorrow, and then a week from today, we have another bond steering committee meeting. So these are part of our regular updates and making sure we're understanding of what the impacts are to our plan and the construction schedule and how that's going to flow through financially to the members of the district. In addition to what I just mentioned with audit, this week, we started some of our lockdown drills, so parents are receiving notifications when that happens per state guidance. We have to provide advance notification of that. We also, again, we're in the comment period for the cardiac component of the district-wide safety plan. As Dr. Champ mentioned, it's going to entail additional compliance training. About an 18-minute segment on our compliance training platform. It doesn't result in certification. It's not supposed to result in certification, but it results in acknowledgement and signs and conditions and how you can help somebody in a cardiac emergency. We've worked with Altaris, our safety consultant, and that is the component that they're recommending at this time. Exactly what Dr. Fitzgerald said, we're working on that. We didn't want to end up on that naughty list, so she's keeping us all honest there, and we're doing a good job trying to make sure we're going to be on the good side of that. And thank you, Dr. Champ, for mentioning our school custodians and School Custodian Recognition Day. We truly have a wonderful group of people in our district who really care about our students and are a great part of our school community. And we're very fortunate to have them. So thank you for that recognition for them. They certainly deserve it. And thank you very much. So I'll do the segue now?
Yes.
Okay, so this evening, we have Melissa Zott, a partner from PKF O'Connor Davies, to present the annual results of our audit. We also have Bahari Kandapuram, who is the audit manager, our on-site person during the audit, which took place, the on-site part took place in July.
So tonight, so to make sure this is on. My name is Melissa Zott. I'm a partner with the PKF O'Connor Davies. Scott gives his apologies for not being able to appear tonight, but I'm here in his place. What we have for you tonight is just a PowerPoint slide that I find to be a little bit easier to digest instead of the large financial statements that we do provide you. So tonight, we will be going over some required communications as part of the external audit process. We have some revenues and expenditures, so it's a very high level of the general fund. I'll turn it over to Vib. She will go into a little bit more detail on the revenues and the expenditures and the variances between budget to actual. We have for you a 3-year fund balance analysis, so it provides a historical analysis of the fund balance of the school district. The school district operates other funds, so we'll talk about the results of those as well. And then, as is mentioned several times tonight, you do have outstanding debt, so we'll provide a debt service summary for you. So part of this external audit process are responsibilities. Management and those charged with governance. Those charged with governance would be the audit committee, and then the full board has certain responsibilities. Accounting policies, making sure that they are selected and implemented appropriately. The financial statements that you have, making sure that they are presented in accordance with the United States generally accepted accounting principles. Internal controls are very important in every organization, so not only establishing appropriate controls, but doing a periodic review, ensuring they're maintained appropriately. It makes sure there's good checks and balances. Compliance with all of your laws and regulations, and then any provisions of the contracts that you enter into. As external auditors, we do go over and request a lot of information, so just providing us with those financial records. And most importantly, setting a proper tone at the top, making sure there's high ethics and high good values at the school district. And as mentioned previously, there was an audit committee meeting, and I spoke with Scott, and it was a good discussion, so I appreciate that. Not only does the school district have responsibilities, but us as your external auditors, we also have certain responsibilities. The deliverables are the reports that you have. The independent auditor's report, we have issued an unmodified opinion. Sometimes you might hear it's referred to as a clean opinion. It is the best opinion that the school district can receive. We have also issued a yellow book report. That's going to be a report on controls and compliance. Something different this year, and to note, is the report on compliance for each major federal program that would be representative of your federal single audit. That would be diving more into your compliance. Currently, we have to wait for a 2025 compliance supplement to be issued. It's in draft form right now, but with, unfortunately, the government shutdown, we have to wait until that gets issued final. But I believe the compliance work was done, and it's just a matter of completing that report. Your extra classroom activities fund report, that would be the smaller report that houses all of your student activity clubs. And then in one document, we have the required communications, as well as the management letter, so any best practices we might have. We're happy to report that there were no fraud or illegal acts noted as part of this external audit process. There were no difficulties, no uncorrected misstatements, and no disagreements with management. Our timeline's presented here. So prelims, we do the controls, testing, field work, we test the balances. This is the latest that the New York State pension system was released for your non-teachers, and we have to wait for that information to prepare the draft report. So let's go into the numbers, the fun part of the presentation. So on your first column is going to be your original budget. That's the budget that was adopted by the voters. It also includes in it your prior year purchase orders. So those purchase orders get added to that adopted budget. Your final budget is your second column. If you had budget amendments or budget transfers, that would be represented in that column. Third is your actual results as of June 30, 25. Your encumbrances are your current year purchase orders that have not yet been fulfilled. So that $355,000 will roll into your 25-26 budget. And lastly is your variance with your final budget. So let's start at the top with your revenues. Your largest revenue, so you have a total of $90.7 million that actually came in. You budgeted about $89.2. Largest revenue is your real property tax, and your second largest would be your state aid. You can see your favorable variance is about $1.6 million, so you had more than what you anticipated. Vib will go over that on the next slide, exactly how that came about. Your second line is your expenditures. You had anticipated 88 million, 88.4. You actually only spent 85.4. So if you take into consideration your purchase orders of 355,000, you actually spent under budget about 2.6 million. A lot of that was related to some instructional costs and then some for buildings and grounds. And again, Vib will go on to that. You have some other financing sources and uses, so transfers in that were budgeted but not yet not needed to happen. That was from your debt service fund. Your transfers out, you can see it started at about 6.5 million is what you anticipated transferring, but that got increased during the year to 8.4, and you transferred just about that amount. The most important line is your net change in fund balance. That's the third row from the bottom. Your net change in fund balance is how much you anticipate using during the budget process. So in your original budget column, the 3.6 million, that would be how much you anticipate using. So the 3.6 million is made up of 4 different parts. Your first part is 1.23 million of your unassigned fund balance. That's what you originally anticipated as part of the budget adoption process. But you also anticipated using 2 reserves, your TRS reserve for about 180,000 and your ERS reserve for 800,000. The last piece that goes into that number of the 3.6 is your prior year purchase orders. So last year you had the encumbrances of about 1.4 million. So to give you additional buying power in the 24-25 budget, that budget got rolled into it. If you look at the second column in your final budget, so this works, you can see that that went from 3.6 to 5.5 million. That increase was the voter approved 1.85 million to purchase the residential property at 29 Franklin Place. So that increased your use of fund balance as well as the increase of your transfer out. Overall, you ended up, after your other financing sources and uses, you ended up using only 3.1 million instead of the anticipated 5.5. So your fund balance started at 21 million, dropped to 18 million, but you are at the 4%, which we will show you some reserve slides later. I'll hand it off to Vib at this point.
Good evening, everyone. I am Vib. I'm the manager on the audit. If you go to page 6, this is just more detail of all the major revenues of 24-25. Before we go through the major variances, we would like to note that the district did not override tax cap for the property taxes. Some of the major variances which came under budget that you will note here is state aid. The district got more foundation aid, about 450,000 more this year, and also slightly more on lottery aid. It has more to do with the state allocation, their budget. So the state had a more budget in 24-25, which is why almost most of the districts received larger state aid in the current year. Another difference is the use of money and property. Similar to other school districts, the interest rates have stayed subsequently substantially higher. So you can see that the income continues to stay really good. the rate, and also the school district uses NICLAS investments, which is also has high interest rates. The rates for 24-25 are like 4.5 to 5.2, which is really good rates. If you go to the transfers line, you can see that the district was anticipating or planning to use 2.1 million because the debt service fund had a balance of 2.2, and you were planning to use that, but you did not need to use it, so you were able to do without doing the transfer. In the other revenues line, just a note, this also you had more income coming in because the BOCES refund of 2 years is sitting in that line. So you had more income than what you anticipated in current year. If you go to the next page, some of the major expenditures that you had savings on, most of them, were operation and maintenance. Even though you had more HVAC repairs, the total repairs and maintenance were much lower than what you had anticipated. So you had a savings of $783,000. Teaching, because the teacher's contract was approved after your 24-25 budget, you still had some in contingency line. So you had anticipated that raise, which is the reason why you still came in good. You were $250,000 better than what you had anticipated. The programs for students with disabilities, you had anticipated a student to be out of district, but that student stayed within the district. You also had savings in BOCES services, which is why you got a savings of $764,000. And as Melissa mentioned, the transfers outline, if you see the final budget is higher because it includes the resolution approval for the 1.8 million purchase of 29 Franklin Place. So in the revenues page, even though it looks like, I forgot to mention one point, that even though it looks like the actual came in less than the budget, you can see the budget looks 91.3 and your actual is less. You have to count that the transfer in, the fund balance that you were anticipating to use, you did not use it. So if you take that out of the equation, you had more revenues than anticipated of 1.6 to 1.7 million.
Also, to point out, you did have some other expenditure savings of $630,000. About $200,000 of that was in your pupil services for like your attendants, your guidance counselors, and health services, and then about $150,000 was related to your computer assisted instruction, so computers and softwares. What we have seen a trend overall, I just want to point out the interest earnings has been higher, just generally speaking from the school districts we've seen. Obviously, like Vib had mentioned, you are part of NICLAS. Last year was a 5.2% average. This year it's a 4.2, 4.5% average. So generally speaking, any school district that's part of this municipal pool would have a similar return. As far as the expenditures are concerned as well, expenditures are going up across the board amongst a lot of our school districts. So it is something that can be challenging to budget in this time, and having that interest earnings at this point is very beneficial to help offset these costs. But we see them continuing going down, so just keep that in mind. What we have for you here is your 3-year general fund balance analysis. So we have 25, 24, and 23. Currently, the school district has 4 buckets of fund balance. Your non-spendable would be earmarked expenses. You've already prepaid a portion of those, so $2.5 million will already be spent next year. It could be insurance-related items that are prepaid, like policies that are prepaid. Your next bucket would be your restricted fund balance. So that came to $10.4 million. It dropped a little bit from 12.7. The restricted fund balance would be anything that would be legally restricted through either education law or general municipal law. The largest reason for the decrease from 12.7 to 10.4 is related to your tax certiorari reserve. You can see your tax certiorari was reduced from 5.4 to 3.7. It was reduced to agree to your potential exposure and your pending claims that you currently have. It should be a certain number of years, between 4 and 5 years of tax certs that you should have supported in your reserve. You do have some unemployment benefits. Your EBLR did increase. That's your employee benefit accrued liability. That would increase based on the liability that you anticipate paying out when employees retire from the school district. So you have money set aside for that. The other restricted reserves would either increase by interest that you can allocate towards that, so that helps build up those reserves as well. And then you can see your ERS, you have certain 800,000 that will be used for next year, so your 25-26 budget. You also have 180,000 in your TRS that you would anticipate using next year as well. Your assignments, that's your next bucket. You have 2 items in there. Your purchases on order, like we talked about, that's 355,000 this year. So that will roll into next year's budget. And then again, this year in 25, you anticipate using next year 1.23 million to balance your 25-26 budget. Overall, your unassigned fund balance ended at 3.85 million. Like I mentioned, you are at the 4%, which is where you want to be at year end. The school district does have other funds that you operate. Your capital projects fund would house all of the activity related to ongoing projects. You have started out with 6.3 million in your fund balance. Your expenditures would be all of your capital outlays, so all of the expenses incurred on those open projects. And then you did have a transfer out of net of 1.3 million. Of that 1.3, you had the transfer in for the purchase of the property, but you also had a transfer out that got moved into debt service, and that's what that asterisk is for. So $3 million you had unspent 2018 bonded projects fund. So that got transferred into debt service, and you can utilize that to help pay down future principal and interest payments to help relieve the burden on the taxpayers. So your debt service fund, you started at 2.2. Your revenues are solely interest related, so you get to earn interest on the funding, and your expenditures would be the principal and interest payments. Your school lunch fund would include all of the activity related to your cafeteria. The $1 million in revenues, majority of that, $850,000, is your food sales. You do receive a small portion in federal and state aid, so that would be part of the revenues. And then your expenditures, would be to operate the cafeteria. Generally speaking, your school lunch fund should be self-sufficient, so you could see that the fund balance did drop slightly, but that would be anticipated. Your special purpose fund would house majorly your extra classroom activities, so all of your student clubs. Your revenues would include any fundraising, donations that they may receive, and then the expenditures would be any money spent on those related clubs. You do have a permanent fund, which would be the endowment received, and the principal remains at the school district, but you can spend down the interest over time. So those are the other funds that the school district operates. As mentioned before, you do have outstanding debt obligations. Currently, what's outstanding at June 30, 2025 is about $63.2 million. You do have some that will drop off over time. Currently, I believe the $540,000 will drop off sooner than the others. 1 second. Excuse me. And you do have them at various interest rates. So the $540,000 will mature this month, October 25. That's at a 5% interest rate. Your 2016 bond, which will mature in 29, so your 2030, those are at some lower interest rates. But if you look at your principal and interest on your bonds in total, you have 4.9 in your principal, about 1.6 in your interest. So we saw about $6 million or so dollars. That's currently, if you take it over your percentage of your budget, you're currently about 6.5% to 7% of your budget. Depending on how much infrastructure is needed or renovations are needed at the school district, that number can range anywhere between a 4 to 5%, all the way up to a 10%. It just really depends on the needs of every school district. So while the 63 million seems appropriate for what's happening, especially with the two bonds that got recently approved, it is something that we see a various percentage depending on if I go to a school district that has, recently renovated buildings or a library or something, rather than a school district that has a lot more needs to it. So that does conclude our presentation for today, but I can go ahead and take any questions that you may have.
Thank you for that. Slide 5, please. Yep. Just the net change in fund balance. We were budgeting a decrease in fund balance of 5.4 million. Yep. And we ended the year with a decrease of only 3.1 million. Yep. Can you just explain again why that decrease was less than budgeted?
Sure, absolutely. Excuse me. So overall, it really plays into your revenues versus your expenditures. Your revenues were higher than what you anticipated by the 1.6. As we talked about, that was really related to your state aid portion of the 640,000. Your expenditures, you did underspend, so if you anticipated spending higher than what you anticipated, then you would expect your net change to be even higher than what it was. So that was some savings in your instructional items that Viv had talked about, as well as your buildings and grounds. So you had some underspending items there. The big point to make out is that before, if we look at the excess of revenues over expenditures, before you had any of transfers between funds, you actually had net income of 5.3 million. So it had a positive impact on your fund balance. Ultimately, you didn't need to have your transfer in of the 2.2 million from your debt service fund, which would essentially increase that net income. But instead, you did have your transfer out. So your transfer out would then drop your net position overall. So ultimately, those would be the main factors that would include that lower decrease in your net
Gotcha.
fund
So
balance.
because the operations were better than expected, and by operations I mean revenue and expenses, we performed better than expected. We have to dip less into the reserve, into funds to operate the business, operate the district.
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool. May I ask another question before someone goes next? Okay. If that's okay. Where is it? Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. Slide 8, if I may. So the tax cert went from tax certiorari. In 2024, it was a balance of 5.4 million, and it dipped to 3.7. How does that where does that money flow through to? The that decrease in the tax certiorari, where is that deployed?
Sure. So the tax certiorari, the decrease would be essentially unrestricted at that point. So the restriction then is removed from the portion of the tax year. So it'd be the 5th or the 6th tax year that no longer is needed or no longer is supported by pending tax certiorari claims. So the restriction would be removed, and that would fall into the unassigned piece. The reason why we don't see the unassigned piece increase is because you did have that decrease in fund balance overall. So that would offset that.
Okay. I think I understand that.
So the decrease in the fund balance overall being, let me just go back to it, being about a $3 million decrease, that would essentially offset the decrease in your restricted So the decrease in your restricted would be removed from your restricted and added to your unassigned, but because you had the decrease in your fund balance overall, that would offset your increase in your unassigned. So
Okay,
almost like
I
a
think I
net
get
net
that. Okay,
impact.
thanks.
Does anyone have any more questions?
Did I touch on all the questions?
Yeah,
that
you
highlighted
touched
in
on
your-
it. Mhm.
In your opening, okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
It was fantastic, as always. Certainly, I got to go back to the office tomorrow. Thank you so much to the business office team. We were very lucky. Again, we've got a great group of people working for the district, and certainly everyone in the district participating. It's a team effort, and it's a real crunch over the summer to get it done, so thank you so much.
And I have to give kudos to the department, too. I think we're generally one of the first districts out there,
Yes.
ready to go.
That is correct.
So it's a big push on our end, but the benefit is really the work you're able to do and to deliver this important report to us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Have a great meeting.
Thank you, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have Board of Education committee reports. So I think
We had
went through
audit committee,
audit.
but
Yeah.
That
That was
summarized audit.
What else? We had bond steering.
Bond steering and policy
And
and
policy.
advocacy.
Yes, yeah, so
Okay.
which one do we want to start with?
Well, we'll talk about policy when we talk
Oh,
about
when we
the
get to the
policy.
Yep.
policies, exactly.
Yep, it's an easy one. Why don't we, maybe let's do advocacy, and then Jim and I can tag team with bond steering. That sounds okay, because I know Natalie is not with us tonight, and certainly other board members. I know Natalie's not here again tonight, so I can, maybe I'll start us off on advocacy, and then certainly other board members who are part of that can join in. So thanks to Alex Wolf, too, in helping to coordinate this. Jackie mentioned earlier, we did go through and review all the committee applications, and we did actually notify the advocacy folks the end of last week because we realized we had already set a meeting date for this week, knowing that we needed to get things up and running. So we had our first committee meeting this morning, where we talked about, we had, again, a combination, as you alluded to earlier, of longstanding experienced members and some, to give us some consistency, and then some new members to give us some fresh perspective. So a great meeting this morning. We just reviewed the committee's purpose, introduced ourselves to one another. Alex gave us an overview of the upcoming scope survey. The board probably remembers this, a community may from a little over 2 years ago, we did a full communications audit. That was a very extensive, thorough process. Part of that was a quantitative survey, district-wide survey that was sent to internal stakeholders, external, even included students. And out of that came some great metrics and some goals that we set around that as part of our strategic plan that came from the audit. So generally, they recommend you re-administer that every 2 years. So just given the flow of how the last year and a half or so has gone, it's kind of, this seems to be the right time to be doing it, even though it's a little bit beyond that 2-year point. So we are planning to launch that mid-November. So definitely want to encourage folks, as many folks as possible, to take it. We do try to hit certain participation benchmarks with each stakeholder group because that gives us some validity to the results. We want to really benchmark how we did compared to last time, given an incredible amount of work that we have been doing in the communications area. Additionally, we shared some updates on the capital bond communications plan, which was shared with the board last time that we met, to about our regular monthly cadence of communication that we're anticipating going, really kicking into gear as of this meeting. And as well as mentioned the hard mailing that we'd be doing to immediate neighbors of Siwanoy, and just the different vehicles that folks have for communicating with the district. So in addition to us sending that out, there will always be an open-ended survey link in those bond updates where folks can just submit feedback, questions along the way. We'll be checking that periodically. We will be having, we'll be circling back to the stakeholder groups once we get to some initial draft revisions on the design. We'll do that probably a couple times this year, specifically for Siwanoy, as we iterate that process with the goal of having design development done by the end of the spring, so we can submit to State Education Department for permitting, for approval, and then followed by permitting over the course of the coming year. We also reminded them they can email me. Not that I want my inbox full, but I will absolutely get them either connected to the right person or an answer to their question. And then reminded them as well of the board coffees that we have throughout the year. So a variety of opportunities to communicate, two-way communication related to the bond projects. Additionally, Catherine gave us a little quick overview of the advocacy timeline and how that meshes with the state budget. We talked about opportunities for us to be exploring some advocacy topics in the coming months. I know tonight we're going to have a brief conversation during new business about some direction for her as she advocates and brings the Pelham voice to the West Putt work. We're looking forward. Last year we really didn't have a lot of time spent on the advocacy side of this two-pronged purpose of the committee, but we're hoping with her expertise now and focus on this to be able to bring back the advocacy really in support of public education, things that impact Pelham directly and that impact public education as a whole. And then we also reviewed committee dates. We are going to make an adjustment to what we originally planned from February meeting, probably pushing it back more towards January to better align with the advocacy calendar. Anything I missed from that? No.
Will we, thank you for that. Will, I think it would, the entire board might not be familiar with the initial scope survey and the results.
Okay.
And I think we talked a little, maybe Alex will come to a
Yeah.
board meeting and.
Yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, what we were thinking, unfortunately, this meeting was spoken for with the auditors. Next meeting is spoken for. We're intending to do a work session next time, focused on New York Inspires initiative, as well as have time for our budget discussion. So what we're hoping to do is have Alex come to the following board meeting, which I believe is November 5th, and just provide a presentation to the full board on just a little bit of the history of what was the audit that we conducted a couple of years ago, what were the main findings, part of that, what are the scope survey results, and then share some of the work that's been done since that. So they did, as I mentioned before, laid out a strategic communications plan. We've been systematically working our way through that. And there's things and changes that have been going on that you may not even realize have happened as a direct result of that. So Alex is going to share really the great work that's been going on there. And then also we can talk about the survey. The survey will actually be launched by that point in time, but it's close enough.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing because I think it was really valuable to be able to, like, the way that Alex synthesized sort of like what we did well, where there's opportunities, and then be really laser focused around what we can do better and to be able to test it and then go into the next survey in November. So I think it's off to a really good start where it'll be interesting to see how we progress, like how we progress on those opportunities, but I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Okay, bond steering? I think that's what's left.
Yes.
So I do have the minutes, Jim, if you want me to tee that one up too. It's funny too, it feels a little bit out of order because we did have an opportunity to share an update recently with the community following, our last board meeting was just before the bond steering meeting. We had it like a day or two later. We sent a large community update. But certainly want to still revisit that, yeah. So really at the last meeting, we kind of redid introductions, provided an update on the different projects, and reviewed the anticipated timeline, and we got a first glance at some 3D imaging, which was pretty cool. So reviewed the projects, just recentered on what the approved projects were. Talked about the current status, so that, KG&D has been appointed, obviously. We'll be appointing our construction manager, finalizing contract details for.
Attorney's going to hopefully have it next week.
We are hoping to have that next week, so we may need a small item of business at our work session to get that approved. That being said, we're still moving ahead, though, with some collaborative work. Over the summer, some surveying was done, and actually when school started, some surveying, some initial measurements were done at the campus at Siwanoy for surveying, and then at the 3 elementary schools, there was internal laser scanning.
Kind of like a human Google person walking
Yes,
around with a
backpack,
and then
walking through every space in the
measures
buildings
everything
to get a
and
laser
it's completely
measurement.
on the
It's
inside.
fascinating, and out of that was produced 3D exact, I guess CAD drawings, something
I think it
fancy.
integrates into the CAD
Yes,
system.
integrates
so.
into it. So that was done really to get exact measurements on the buildings, and that will actually then become as a part of the design process. So we talked about the timeline for projects. As things stand right now, the actual design work is beginning for the infrastructure work, roofing, et cetera, on Prospect Hill and Colonial.
Right.
So they were scanned. We took a quick look at those. The hope with those is, and that's, again, this infrastructure works, nothing glamorous, so it's not something that we're having the same level of community engagement around, but certainly as we get closer to construction, there'll be a lot more communication with parents and community to coordinate those projects. Our aim is to get those plans developed within the next couple of months, get them submitted to the State Education Department with the hopes of approval to begin work as early as this summer at those 2 buildings. Understanding that Siwanoy is a much more major project, needs a lot more detailed planning and input. The expectation is that we move through the design development process this school year with the goal of submitting to State Education Department for approval is this spring. That will be a much more extensive approval process, so we anticipate a few months on that. Then there will be permitting, et cetera, that needs to happen, and bidding. So we are anticipating work at Siwanoy to begin at the earliest spring to summer of 2027. It's the current timeline. The high school then would follow behind that. We wanted to, as you know, we've communicated out, we wanted to be sensitive to not closing all school campuses down in the summers because we have such heavy recreation and the Tiny Tots programs at each of the schools. We don't want to close all the schools down at once. If we do staggered closures, then we should be able to sustain those programs by just shifting the locations so that we still give parents and community opportunities for the summer programs. So that's the initial thinking on staging. As Jim said, we have CMAs coming to our next bond steering, and that's where we've been tasked them with looking at the staging of the financing to try to keyhole as best as possible into those opportunities that we have for minimizing borrowing based on debt drop-off. And with that, how do we mesh the construction schedule to match that as best as possible? Construction, because that also ties into the borrowing. So all that work to align those is what's being done, and that's what the primary focus of next week's bond steering committee will be. Jim, I'm trying to.
I'm looking at our agenda, our draft agenda for next week. You've hit it all. Update on the propositions, updates on our surveying, looking at different, the cash flow and the project schedule, the borrowing schedule, to see how that matches up with the draft project schedule right now.
Right. And I think that we did also talk about the communications plan, which we've already shared with the board.
User
And we did talk
groups.
about the upcoming neighborhood coffee, which was held yesterday, which I mentioned earlier.
And the expanded site group, but that's not part of this group. It's
I'm sorry?
the expanded site group,
Yes,
but that's
right, right. Something that
addition
came
to-
out subsequent to the meeting.
So, to the point of the communication plan, we have bond steering next week, and then the update on what happened in bond steering will come through the board meeting,
At
and
the
then
following board, yes.
yeah, and then in the board wrap up.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so like after tonight's meeting, our board wrap-up tonight, it's
I
a
know,
little
but
odd
this-
because we
the
already did a
timing
lot of
was off a
update,
bit.
but I think that, we
Yeah.
will still include an update. I think that, we reported on bond steering. We can, the biggest update, I think, since last time really is the Siwanoy neighbor coffee
The
that
neighbor
was held
coffee, mhm.
yesterday. So we can include that to just continue to amplify that information and make sure that folks are aware of the continued progress on that.
Okay. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's it for committee? Yep, for committee until we get to
Yes.
policy. Okay. Doesn't look like we have we had someone here, but no communications and comments from the public. Can we take 5.1? Do I have a motion to take 5.1 to 5.4 as a consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and this is, I don't know, Jim, if you want to say anything here, but this is what the auditors worked on in the output there.
Yes, yes. The first item is to accept the external audit report, which is what we heard today. The other items have to do with the corrective action plan for the external audit. There was one item mentioned for the extra classroom fund. Club fund, which is
Yep.
essentially the clubs that are run at the high school level. And it's a very common
Corrective act.
corrective action item
Yes.
that happens with many school districts, and it really has to do with the fact that, the students are primarily the people that are running the clubs, but they are students, and we have to work with them to make sure that everything is being done the right way. And we've got faculty advisors, and we've already reached out to the faculty advisors to work on that plan.
And it might take a little, right, it might take them a little longer, right, to
Absolutely.
turn in receipts or
Yes.
make a deposit and that type of thing.
Cash it.
Yeah.
Know what a check is.
Know what a check is,
Yeah.
and, yeah. So some of that's part of it. The other part of it is we had our internal audit. And again, there are two parts to our internal audit. We do an annual risk assessment, which is an evaluation of different processes or risk areas throughout the district. And the other internal audit was the one that was discussed that dealt with human resources, payroll, and benefits. With those findings that we had, we've put together a corrective action plan on those items, and we've got a timeline for correction on those as well. And I think, as we talked about at the audit committee meeting, really constructive internal audit. I think these are all items that were not necessarily a surprise, and things that in many of these things we were aware of and already started to work on, or are in the process of, or we knew we were going to have to start working on them. And Dr. Fitzgerald was at that meeting as well. She was
Yes.
part of the development of that corrective action plan, because that falls under Dr. Fitzgerald's department. So a real constructive document and a good outline and roadmap for that department.
Yeah, and I think, I don't think we mentioned this, but when this was done, they were down, the HR was down the administrative support, right?
They were, yes.
Right, and that, which obviously impacts the
Yeah.
ability to,
The workflow.
to do the workflow, and now they have the.
They're staffed up
Yeah,
now.
they're staffed up now and have the support, so part of it was staffing, right? And we did put in the budget for this year, right, some budget for,
New
technology.
technology to help
New
support the
software
office.
technology, yeah.
So again, we've worked on that, and I think it's also good to mention, I mean, this topic was directed by the audit committee.
Yes.
After you look at the annual risk assessment, and that was really done as part of, it's really a new complete functional area. It's a good opportunity to go in there, build those processes and procedures, and making sure we have it where we want it to be.
One of the things I appreciate, I know Natalie's not
I
with
know,
us
I was just
tonight.
thinking the same thing.
But as we were preparing for tonight, we were able to have a conversation, and with her HR background, she brings a good perspective to this particular topic, because she said especially like the leaves of absence that were highlighted in the report is, that's one of the biggest areas of struggle.
Notoriously- yeah, like
Yep,
notoriously difficult to
for
track.
HR professionals,
Yes.
especially with the new intermittent leaves that are allowed. So there was some grace.
Yes.
But to your point, I think we always appreciate the internal accountability of taking a third party look at these areas and coming up, hearing their recommendations and suggestions for ways that we can improve our systems. So
Right, and I mean, important to mention again, payroll is locked down.
Yeah, we had a good, there were no findings for payroll
Yeah.
or benefits. And we've done this before, but again, we still got some ideas for some changes and trying to do different things to improve our processes as well.
Okay. All right, any comments or questions on these? All in favor? Aye. None opposed, so all of those audit action items were approved and accepted. Do I have a motion to approve a memorandum of agreement with the Pelham Teachers Association?
So moved?
Second.
Okay. This has to do with stipends?
Yep, just some adjustments in contractual stipends to support student activities.
Okay, any comments or questions on that? Okay, none, I'm sorry, I lost my agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, so that motion carries. Hold on, because, do I have a motion to accept a donation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I have to find the
I
donation,
can share mine if you want.
because I just lost my, is it in here? Let's see.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Do I read the whole thing? Resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education does hereby accept the monetary donation of $33,678.40 for the Pelham Memorial High School Academy Plus after-school program,
Oh, yeah.
and that gratitude be bestowed upon its donor, the Pelham Civic Association. That's the first one.
Yes.
Thank you, Pelham Civic
Thank you to the
Association.
Pelham
Right?
Civic.
Incredibly generous.
Yes.
They continue to support that on
Yes.
an annual basis.
Be it further resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the board does hereby accept the donation of $3,000 to be used to purchase books for the Siwanoy School Birthday Book Club, which celebrates the students' birthdays by gifting books in their names, and that gratitude be bestowed upon their donor, the Siwanoy School community. The Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to accept future donations for this purpose during the 2025-26 school year. The Board of Education hereby authorizes the district to enter into any related agreements to procure any goods or services required under the terms of the donation.
Okay, thank you.
Just want to say, I continue to be incredibly appreciative to the civics, as well as the Siwanoy school community for those
Yes.
donations. They replenish our libraries. Each kid feels special in a unique way each year, and it's a great tradition that goes on at Siwanoy.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you again. Those are approved. Okay, so now we're moving into policy. We have, I'll turn it over to Sid, but we have several first readings of policies
Yep.
to talk about.
Yep, we do.
I don't know which numbers these are in terms of, I'm saying like the number of policies, well, they're not
Oh,
approved
this
yet.
is the start.
We're early in the season.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Back to
I'm
zero.
talking for the
Yeah, for the
chart.
tally.
Really have to make that percent.
Yeah.
So, let's see, we have a very short policy on powers and duties of the board, which has some minor clarifications that we made, but substantively, our powers and duties haven't really changed, so not much to say there.
Yes.
Let's see. Appointments and designations, this was, these are annual appointments that we need to make, and we discussed internally sort of the policy, the practice that the district's going to have to work on keeping track of these policies going forward, these required actions each year going forward.
Yeah. And many of these you'll see at the reorganization meeting in July every year.
Exactly.
This lists out a lot of those specifically.
Right.
Non-discrimination and and anti-harassment. I think the main changes here were really around logistics and how people would be contacted if they have complaints that they want to bring forward.
Yeah, I think the prior versions had people's names as well as titles, and the names have changed, even though the titles remain the same. So our approach here was to take names out so that we don't have to. We're hoping names don't change, but take those out so that the title can remain consistent. We don't have to revise the policy just because of a personnel change.
Yeah. And then we had a couple finance policies that really just had some cleanup comments, nothing substantive around
Correct.
investments and purchasing, I think.
And those
I don't
are
think there was
annual.
anything
Jim
purchasing.
always brings those to us. Those are required annual review by the board.
I think that's it. And then,
Like the last one.
and then we talked a bit about the code of ethics.
Which is something that came out of our self-evaluation
Self-evaluation,
that
correct.
we needed to do.
Yes.
So that is.
Yeah, and one thing I would add to, other than the purchasing and investments, which are annual, I think all of these, the most recent review of these was theoretically June 2012. And I say theoretically because we have a vast number of policies in the manual that date back to June 2012. So my theory is that's when we shifted to board docs. So they haven't been looked at in a while. So it's a great opportunity, and I think too in the spirit of the board self-evaluation and making sure that the board is tending to all the different areas of responsibility as a governance team, it made sense to start here. And especially, as you said, the code of ethics is something that for the board to make sure they have in place, everyone is aware of it, and that it's up to date. So we're happy to look at this.
So no action needed on any of these, but if people have comments, you have time before the next
Yeah.
meeting to let us know.
Okay. Thank you for listening. Okay. Do I have a motion to take 7.1 through 7.6 as a consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, before we move, you see 7.6 is appointing Mrs. Kramer Gilbert as the interim principal
For the remainder of the year.
for the remainder of the school year. So
Correct.
we're very grateful for that. And are there any other that you want to point out?
We just have kind of across the board some of your typical FMLA leaves, some additional overages, 6-period assignments, some folks being appointed to coaching positions, different advisorships at the secondary campus across the district, so filling some important roles to work with students, an additional student observers, student teachers, and a teaching assistant. We also have a variety of resignations and appointments in our non-instructional support staff, folks that are also being approved to help supervise athletics and evening events, which is another critically important part of supporting our student activities. 7.5 is where you see Dr. Fitzgerald had referenced earlier, people who are changing lanes, as we call it, or they're having salary adjustments due to professional learning that they've done. So I'm really proud of their work and thankful to be able to do that for them.
Okay. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, so those are all approved. Do I have a motion to approve a Schedule D?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
9.1, new business.
Okay, so I think we have 2 items of new business to bring up tonight. One I had shared with the board in advance, and that was the draft, it's the submitted regionalization plan from Southern Westchester BOCES. Within that, what they did, we had a collaborative process of development throughout the school year led by Harold Coles, the district superintendent for Southern Westchester BOCES. I participated in several of the sessions as we discussed back a few months ago. Dr. Comerford sat in for me for at least one of those where I had a scheduling conflict. What it was really was a look at district regional data, an assessment from our regionalization plans that had been submitted to the state, and then synthesizing that to try to identify areas that as a region we may have some potential synergy around collaboration. So that plan identified several areas, and then we were asked to go back, speak with our boards about what we were thinking for areas that we would then give some indication to BOCES that we would likely be willing to partner in the future. So it is not a hard and fast commitment, but it is an indication to them for completion of the process as to areas of interest. So what I had shared with the board is what I, again, what I had shared to you all before. Identified, there was 5 areas that stood out to me. Certainly want feedback, and I know I got a couple questions and some insight into some questions in some of the areas. So item 1.1, this area had to do with partnering on a work group for Portrait of the Graduate and development of shared models, rubrics related to that. Board knows that is already one of our goals or one of our big rocks for the year. So with these, the way that I understand most of them at this point, it really is kind of to become part of a working group, a think tank, a consortia, whatever way you want to approach that. So there's not a lot of tangibles around them right now, but it's commitment of districts to partner together on topics that are going to help us to continue to grow and expand our capacity. So since one of our big rocks had to do with Portrait of a Graduate, I think 1.1 makes a lot of sense for us. 1.2 was the expanding advanced opportunities related to RECOVS, mHelp, and MTSSI. I know it's a lot of acronyms. The board is aware we have been part of, and this is our second year as one of the districts partnering on the RECOVS grant. It's a federal grant that BOCES received to help with pandemic recovery. And it very much aligns with the work that we have been doing through our strategic plan. Tracy and Claire have been the leads on this, so very much appreciate Tracy in particular's that one step ahead lead on this. It's been a big lift, but it has given us a lot of great resources and thought partners. So especially when we look at our MTSS model, building out the academic side, and now this year taking the step into building out the SEL side has been very, very helpful. They've got a variety of trainings and workshops that our administrative team attend on a regular basis, and they've been great partners in helping us to plan. They've also provided a lot of professional learning for our administrative team as well as our teachers. So this is the second year of the funding for the grant. It's the last year of funding for the grant, but the hope is that that consortia continues to do work together and build on the strong foundation. 1.3, a question came up about that. I did not identify that as an area where I thought we might partner. That had to do with expanding advanced opportunities, regional workshops to explore dual enrollment, AP, IB, Seal of Biliteracy, Seal of Civic Readiness. The reason that didn't stand out to me in particular was because I think we've already been doing a great amount of work in that area. I felt like it was already a strength. Certainly, if there's open to discussion and reconsideration of that, but I thought if we're gonna spend our energy in certain areas, I thought it'd be better to focus on areas where we didn't already feel like we had areas some strength. So that was kind of the thinking there.
I mean, I agree with that. Each of these require some time commitment, right?
Yeah.
So to not be maybe
Stretched too thin.
duplicative or,
Right.
probably makes
Duplicative
sense.
is a good word. 1.4, this one is another maybe in that category, establishing regional mentoring coaching programs for new administrators, given high turnover rates, professional learning and support. Dr. Fitzgerald's doing an incredible job, I think, on developing the talent pipeline, hiring, recruiting, that kind of area. But what we do see very often, we do in-house mentoring for administrative positions, but sometimes you wish you had just a little bit more, more of like a professional coach kind of thing, someone who was either maybe a like role, but there's only one of them in the district. So I say, for example, a high school principal, we only have one. So if you're going to have a mentor within the district, it will be someone probably in a similar role, but not exactly the same job alike. So just one example. So I thought this is maybe not a top need, but I thought there could be some benefit here, because I think mentoring and professional collaboration is something that just helps out everyone to develop. And it could help us down the road should we have additional, retirements, things like that, coming down the pike in the administrative ranks. And being in administration in education these days is not an easy thing. So to have supports are, I think, critical to developing success in that role. 1.5 is this was just continuation of the collaboration of the superintendents to continue to meet for regionalization.
Yeah.
So as a partner, I think that made sense for me to continue to be an active voice as we develop and live out the plan.
And that's separate from, you have a superintendent's meeting, right?
Yeah.
That's but that's a
Yes,
different.
we have Lower Hudson Council of
Yeah.
Superintendents meets monthly. The Chief School Administrators, which is the Southern Westchester smaller group from the Lower Hudson, meets on a monthly basis. This would be a convening of the regionalization superintendents. So I think there's
Okay.
19 districts in our region that opted into this process, who basically met to develop all of these things. So it would probably be more like a steering committee, I would
Yeah.
think, of how the regionalization partnership continues to evolve. And finally, 2.3 was the other one that stood out to me. When I think of areas that we could benefit from growth, and that was to look at twice exceptional special education work group to explore the regional need, development of twice exceptional students, and those are students who are gifted and also students who have disabilities at the same time, and the commingling of those two dynamics is very complex and one that many districts really don't have programming for. So I know, I'm looking at Catherine because I know she's got specific expertise in this area as well, and we've had several conversations about it. And I think this is an area that could be, really it's to look at what is an assessment of districts, not a district's need, but a regional district needs, and how could there potentially be some programmatic development through BOCES down the road where we could better meet the needs of twice exceptional students. So those are the ones that stood out to me.
Sorry. Do you have a sense of how this is going to play itself out in terms of, any of these topics, the parties are going to get together and talk over a period of time, and then are they going to come back with recommendations or programs that then they're going to offer out to the whole regionalization group? Or is it going to be just sort of the schools that are involved with developing it are going to partner with each other on something?
I don't know yet. I really don't know yet. I think being in the group gives us specific opportunities to shape
Yeah.
what it looks like, and maybe even to partner. I would guess it might wind up being a combination of both, because some things, like I'm thinking about some of the, career technical collaborations that are going on. There are some school districts that are doing, I look to Jim because one of his former districts, they've got building projects and they've got facilities that they're working on that are going to give them the ability to offer programming at a high school that maybe isn't available at our BOCES Valhalla campus. That is likely going to be something available to the region. But there could be, or it could be something that, if designed a different way, could be available just to the regional schools. So I don't fully know how it will flesh out. There could be other programs that no one has the space or the capacity to offer, but maybe BOCES would. And my guess is BOCES, being a regional provider, would likely offer it to all of their schools, use us as the think tank. So I don't fully know yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see it on this, but I was in a meeting today, and I think it was a regionalization meeting relating to homelessness. It was done by TEACH, which is the state entity that deals with everyone with homeless. And to your point, Mr. Burke, I think, depending on the group you're in, they were talking about, they will meet 4 times a year to discuss the topic, but then to drill down to do communities of practice. So like for them, the state is broken into 8 regions: Hudson Valley, Southern Tier, Northern Valley, and they were looking to us if someone wanted to take a leadership role within a community of practice group. And that was, to me, what I interpreted as discussing problems that we're encountering in our region and ways we would want to address them. Like, so I mentioned, I couldn't speak for the entire of Lower Hudson Valley, but for us, in terms of homeless, some of the things we've encountered is when you have people come from other states that claim they're homeless, we don't have a financial mechanism to build back the state of origin. If you're homeless within New York State, you do have a way, because you have a choice when you're homeless to go to district of origin, district where you're currently housed. So I brought that up as an issue for districts because we have no financial recourse. What are we doing about that? And the other thing that we deal with in terms of homeless here is more doubled up. So some of the rural districts deal with kids in hotels, families in hotels, being on buses for hours. But for us, it's more a doubled up issue. And what we encounter is, how do we determine when it becomes fixed, permanent, and adequate? So, I suggested if you were going to do a communities of practice group, something they might do is a tabletop drill. Okay, districts around us, how are we handling it, so we're all approaching it in the same way. So I say all that to say I think some of these groups are going to be think tank groups. How do we support one another versus some you're describing a more
Like programmatic
action,
development.
programmatic type steps.
That's a good
And
example.
do you think that those groups are going to be reporting out to the broader community, or it's really just going to be internal for the schools that are participating?
I'd have to see, because I was hesitant to volunteer in any way, because I know Dr. Champ was talking about specific areas that Pelham was going to talk about, but I would assume that if you, in a region like Hudson Valley, whoever sort of, they were looking for a volunteer to take the lead, would then be communicating to all the participating districts within that communities of practice group. What are the topics we're talking about, eliciting some feedback. How do you handle this in your district? What are the overarching problems we should be bringing to the larger state groups? So that's what my sense would be.
Yeah. I was asking not to encourage us necessarily to free ride on other people's work, but but to see if we'd still get the benefit of the thought from other groups, even if
Yeah.
we're not participating in
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. I think we're all discovering what
Yeah.
this is going to be about. So we can definitely keep you briefed, keep the board briefed on as things roll out. So
It sounds like we have to sign something, though, saying these are the subjects or the areas, like the 1.1, 1.2, that we
Yeah.
want to be a part of, not fully knowing what that level of commitment is yet, right? It's a little
loose.
high, little loose. Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, we are asked. There's a district certification form that I would based on our conversation, I would certify the district has agreed to participate in the items listed.
Yeah, so how many do you have? I'm looking at
That
the-
was 5.
Yeah, I
That's
think
a
that's
lot.
probably enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Including the one that mentioned, like, the AP.
No,
not-
that would
not
be an
that.
addition.
Okay.
That would
Okay.
be a 6th.
And I do agree, like, many of these things are, seem extremely valuable.
Mhm, yes.
But knowing the amount of work and busyness
Yeah.
Yeah.
of all of you, focusing on the ones that are our big rocks.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I mean,
where we could benefit from learning, as well as obviously contributing, I think just makes the most sense.
Great. Any other?
No.
Okay, and if you're comfortable with us going ahead with these, we'll do that. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Thank you.
I think the other topic we wanted to just touch on quickly is some direction for Catherine as she prepares for her liaison role to represent Pelham on policy. I'll let you.
Yeah.
Anna. lead that.
Thank you. So I sent around the worksheet for you guys to review. That's the sort of Cliff Notes version of the resolution booklet that was distributed a few weeks back. And so I think
Microphone.
I'm like, I heard you just fine. I'm not tall enough. So I think we can just review the worksheet, and if you guys have any questions, we don't have to go through it
Yeah, I don't
resolution by resolution, but if there's a resolution on there that you have a question, comment, or concern about, we can maybe talk a little bit about that, and then the decision that we come to tonight will, in a sense, be my marching orders for the NYSBA business meeting and how I would vote on those resolutions at that meeting.
Yeah, I think I'm going to just rephrase what you just said. I think we should focus on, like you said, on any questions on any of these, not go through them one by one. And then in particular, if there's something where somebody sort of disagrees with the way Westchester their consensus on this resolution, we should talk about that, right?
Kind of like the exception.
Yeah, yes, the exception.
I mean, I think.
And Will
No,
has things.
I'm not trying to be difficult. I promise I'm not. And thank you, Catherine, for doing the work on this. But there's a lot here.
Yes.
And some of them, at face value, don't make any sense whatsoever. And what I mean, so to give you an example, so I must be missing some context. So, for example, the proposed resolution 834, I'm just picking this one, NYSBA advocates for the mandatory implementation of daily recess for all students in schools that serve exclusively elementary grade levels, in addition to scheduled physical education classes, right?
Right.
Exercise is good, recess is good.
Why?
Westpart opposes that, so I'm clearly missing something on that one. And there are a number of them where I'm like, there's clear, there has to be some context here that we're missing. And I mean, there
are some notes.
There are but this one doesn't have a note.
Yeah, that one doesn't have.
Another example might be 28, and this one. And by the way, Jackie, when we were talking about this earlier, I was wrong. It's a bit of a mind bender. NYSBA should oppose any policies or regulatory changes to curriculum or standards that does not promote academic excellence, high expectations, and merit-based opportunities for all students. And Westpart,
sorry.
Westpart opposes that, and it's like a sort of triple, quintuple negative. But I think what it's saying
I read it wrong.
is, if we were to sort of agree with Westpart on this, we would not be promoting policies or we would not be supportive of policies that promote academic excellence, high expectations, and merit-based opportunities. So again, like there's kind of clearly nuance here and context that I'm missing, and I just don't know procedurally how to kind of make this an efficient exercise. You know
That
what I'm
one
saying?
seems like a double negative, though.
It's a triple negative.
So
Is it a triple? Like,
Yeah.
it seems
Because
like
they
we would be
oppose-
voting.
with the oppose.
We
it
were
is a
opposing anything that does not promote excellence.
Which
That's
her-
what-
Well, wait, I'm
however
going to
we-
pause everybody for a minute, just for a second.
Yeah.
We're going to go back to the start. So if those resolutions that you just read out are under the heading proposed resolutions not recommended for adoption. So all the resolutions that were submitted to NYSBA end up in this book. NYSBA reviews them. NYSBA has their own resolutions committee that reviews all of the proposals that are sent in and submitted. And so they recommend a section of them for adoption, and then they recommend some not to be adopted. And they have to include it all because we have an opportunity to look at the resolutions that NYSBA is not recommending for adoption and vote to have that reconsidered. So it is this, I see what you mean here because there's an O. So it is like a double negative. So Westput is recommending, we're basically in agreement that we are opposed to these resolutions. So we are saying we agree with NYSBA, we we oppose as written. And now
They're not recommended.
and we are not recommending them. So like, it is a double negative, because under this heading, it would technically make more sense if it was, we're supportive of not recommending
You
it.
agree.
But we are, but what we, we are not recommending. So we like agree, we also oppose these, and we also agree to not recommend them. And we're not gonna
So-
move forward with
So would
these.
it be, maybe this isn't the right way, but it be easier to say, do we support the top section, which is proposed recommended? And are we okay with whatever's on the bottom section remaining there, and, or is there anything from the bottom that we want to ask them to reconsider?
To bring up to the top and have them consider.
I mean, I guess.
The reason why and we can definitely do that. That would require a lot more conversation but we can do that. The regional perspective on this, when we looked at all the ones that all the resolutions that NYSBA was not recommending, and we went through them quickly. We all had read them on our own. They are not recommended for a few reasons. Mostly, you cannot recommend a resolution because it's worded too broadly, or maybe it's worded too narrowly, or maybe it's not in alignment with something, or it's not clear enough, or it's not, there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't recommend. Maybe it's not relevant. So when we reviewed these as a region, we were all in agreement that these were not resolutions that were, when in the broad scope of things, looking at how many resolutions that, we were recommended for to be voted on, none of these stood out to us as like really important or resolutions that we felt were
There's
worded.
a lot of what I would say maybe self-interest. That's what I see as I skim through a lot of the
Mhm.
bottom section, very
Specific
specific
to school.
districts
Yep.
or
Yeah.
regionals. I hate to use that word, but I don't know what another word,
Yeah.
but a very self-interest. as
These,
opposed to
these are
broad
all,
application
these,
for the
these
state.
resolutions are created by districts, and everybody has a different motivation for
Yeah.
putting things together and submitting them. And then NYSBA's job is to make sure that it's a relevant and applicable request.
I have a quick question about the stuff that is in that the proposed resolutions recommended for adoption. When it says, for example, ND, right, so no decision, what does that ultimately mean if it's in that section?
So, let me take.
So, it says, number 8, like NYSBA shall advocate for the number of lockdown drills to be reduced from 4 to 2, and then in parentheses, Binghamton School Board. I'm assuming
That's
either
who
they're
brought it forward.
They're the ones that submitted.
They submitted, okay.
And so it was no decision, and basically the conversation around that was,
Number 8,
We-
debate over the importance of drills for safety. I'm just reading,
Yeah.
the comments. Like I guess what I'm wondering is procedurally, what happens if it says no decision there?
There's if you look at what happens, I know why you
Well, this is,
Did it
the
because
the
it's
no
law.
decision is West Putt's
No decision
recommendation on what they're going to do at the
at the state level.
NYSBA, right? So it's going to be like they're sort of abstaining, or they're not advocating strongly for it or whatever, right?
and the reason is because it really varies by district. Everyone had a lot of competing thoughts about, the importance of fire drills. Some people thought having too many fire drills was not a, trauma-informed approach, or not, would cause distress to our children, and why do we need to have more than what the state already mandates? Some people thought that we should have less. And it really just varies by community and what you think your community wants to see or handle. So there wasn't a solid decision one way or another regionally, and so
Yeah.
that's why it was the no decision. So we can decide to support it or oppose it. If we feel like the state mandated amount of drills is appropriate, and we would prefer NYSBA to spend time elsewhere advocating, then I would suggest that we oppose it.
Yeah, I think we have.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yes.
That we have enough drills. And it's.
or if somebody thinks that there's a reason why there should be more fire drills and more lockdown drills in our schools, then let's hear your reason why, and we can, think about how that makes sense for Pelham.
Can we abstain on any of these? Because we just don't, like, for example, number 6, NISBA opposes proposals to raise the number of charter schools authorized in the state. I have no idea what I think of that.
Oh,
you
that
know?
one's being sunsetted, right?
Right.
Yeah, what do
That-
those mean where they say they're sunsetting?
So a sunsetting resolution they've been on for 5 years and they're about to roll off.
I see.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh.
right, nobody's moved
They're about to
forward.
roll off, but they could stay on, or no, they are going to roll off?
Well, if you vote to continue to support it, then it'll stay on.
Got it. So like,
You're
for
supporting
example, I would
sunsetting, or
vote
you're
to,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
just want- Are we supporting sunsetting it or supporting keeping it on the agenda?
Supporting keeping it on the agenda. So like supporting this would be supporting keeping it on the agenda.
Wait, so the S that,
So for example, it's reached its 5-year limit, which would it sounds like a procedure or policy or whatnot. At 5 years, these are looked at and like, this is time, for whatever reason, it could be sunset, unless we say, no, we actually think we want to vote one way or another on this. So yeah.
Right, not just Pelham, I mean, unless like the voting delegation of NISBA votes to support this, it'll stay on. But if the overall, regardless of our vote, yes or no, if the majority vote is a yes or the majority vote is a no, then.
the Westchester board has S's here. So the consensus was to keep these.
For number 6.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm saying most of them have S's, so sunset one.
For all the
2
sunsetting
Yeah,
ones.
all the sunsetting ones. The consent, the Westchester board's consensus on all of the sunsetting ones is to sort of re-up them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't realize that. I thought we were supporting the
I read it the
sunset.
other way.
Sunset. Oh my God, they're really me too.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Wait, say that again? So the S means
The-
we're
the-
supporting,
The S means we're supporting, and the sunsetting is just like a heads up that this resolution
Might go away.
would otherwise go away.
okay, but we're supporting the opposition to raise the number of charter schools. In this example, in number 6.
You would, an S would indicate that we don't
We
want,
oppose-
we don't
we don't
want
want
the
any more charter
resolution,
schools.
we don't want the resolution to sunset, and so that NISBA opposes
Right.
proposals to raise the number of charter schools.
Okay.
And I would absolutely personally support that, not that I
Yes.
get a vote.
Me too.
I don't.
We overwhelmingly supported
Because
that.
Yeah, because it takes money away from public
That-
schools.
That's,
Okay.
that's my basic. And I think part of this, I know that it's challenging because it's so easy for things to feel like they get into a political
Right.
realm of perspective, but I think, we've talked some about this. I think it's important, our role, there is a role for boards to be advocates and for advocacy, and it's to support public education and the things that benefit our students as a district and us as governing in public education. So that's, to your point, that's where I come from.
Mhm.
That's not a left or
I
a
mean,
right.
that's totally
just-
legit.
Yeah.
I just don't
Yeah.
know anything about the issue, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and I think that's the base issue around charters, that from a public school perspective, it's one of many, but the funding gets taken directly away from
Money.
the
Right,
public.
it's
the
not
money.
taking away it's not taking away charter school, the number of charter schools there is
No,
now.
it's just not
It's not
raising the number
raising
higher.
the number.
Because there's a limit on the number that can be
Higher, but-
approved within the
Correct.
state, right?
Right.
So what needs to happen now is you're going to go, so at the next meeting,
She's gonna vote on
then
our behalf.
you will vote on behalf of the board on all of these items.
On 1 through 23, right?
And these are not, like, this is not policy legislative. This is saying to NISBA, this is basically
Setting
NISBA's
priorities.
members, and the members of NISBA are school boards. So every
Yeah.
single school board member in the state of New York is by default a member of NISBA, and every single school board is has the ability to delegate one person or to designate one person to be their voting delegate. So each school board has one vote on these resolutions to basically tell NYSBA, we think this is important, we think this is where you should spend your time. So as a school board, Pelham is logging their vote and saying, this is where we think you should spend your time. And NYSBA can look at that information. They can slice and dice it any way they want. They can say regionally, this is what this region thinks is important. They can look at it by county. They can look at, they can slice up this pie any way they want to help their advocacy efforts so that they can communicate to their lawmakers and draft policies that's specific and relevant to each district. And so knowing what's important helps them create their legislative priorities. So this isn't an opinion on policy. This is an opinion on like where we would like to see NYSBA spend their time.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And now that you're saying that, I'm thinking about that. I know very often as we've looked at policies, this will be synthesized from all across the state, and then the state will hone their top priorities, the region will hone their top priorities. They then send that back to us, and then we pick where do we as Pelham want to put our top 2 or 3 priorities.
That's how we, and that's why it'll take until January to get our regional priorities, because NYSBA's then is going to have to take this, figure this out, put their legislative priorities together, then distribute that regionally. The regions are going to have to look at it, figure out what to do with that information, reword it, rework it, narrow it down to region. Then we get that, and then that's prime advocacy season. It'll align right with January, February, and then we look at it as Pelham and we say like, okay, here's the priorities. Last year it was foundation aid, it was school-based mental health services, school lunches. UPK is always on there, has been on there for a long time, and so there's usually I think NYSBA had like 15 things or 12 things, and then West Putt had maybe 5, and we picked 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I think this becomes helpful to the legislators themselves as well, because if they're trying to form coalitions, they're going to look at what's important in this part of the state, what's important, where do they find the synergy that is something that our legislators are going to, I mean, you guys know how politics work, but this data, I think, is what helps to drive those priorities and gives them the tools they need to hone in the agenda.
What's the timeline like that you need this?
Now.
Like it's now.
Well, so the delegate, the
this
business
is new
meeting
for us, I think, right? Because we have
because you're-
Catherine here, so I'm just trying to
Your meeting
process.
is, when is your meeting?
It's on the 16th.
Yeah, so she
Little
needs to
over-
know by
yeah,
the
it's a
16th.
little over a week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, would it be fair to say at this point, I mean, because, it is getting on the night, that
Yeah.
if folks have any significant exceptions, that they would raise those to you or to
Yeah.
you and
Yeah,
Jackie?
I
Yeah.
I would
between-
appreciate that because I was
before-
looking at it from a different lens, so it was nice
Me
to
too.
talk about it and now understand exactly,
back and review.
through the lens of what we're going to be reviewing it under.
Well, and I know there's notes here, but that it's a truncated version of like the whole conversation. So I can, if there is questions or the note's not clear, or you want more information on like why the region decided one way or another, or if there's a no decision on one, well, why was there a no decision? Like how come the region didn't come to a consensus on it? I can help fill those gaps.
Great,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome, guys.
Through a lot.
Now we know how to read it.
I'll give that feedback to West Putt, that it's like not, I read it and I was like,
convinced I knew what I was reading.
I totally.
I know, and I think because I knew what it was, like, I don't know, I just like I looked at it and was like, yeah, it makes sense to me, but like, it
Yeah.
makes sense now that I'm hearing your questions. I'm like, oh, right, it does kind of look like that. So I can give that feedback to Karen, and I wonder too, like, if she gets it from other districts or not, or maybe she has, and then people call and say, what's this about? And then she answers the questions for them, so.
Westpa, am I saying it right?
West Putt,
Westpa,
Putnam, it's
Putnam.
Westchester Putnam.
Putnam, okay, got it. West Putt. There's a group of individuals who came up with the
Consensus?
yeah, the consensus on each one of these. And you are a part of
Of that one.
that. Okay, right. Got it.
And what is the significance, or how should we interpret? There's a kind of little thing here which shows whether a motion is, or a proposed resolution is either supported by the NISBA DEI committee or not. What would your commentary be on that?
That's just, I think it's just there to provide some extra context if a DEI is something that you are interested in knowing how things are categorized or where people fall on that or what the consensus is on that. That was part of the conversation just as and this is something the DEI committee supported, and this is something it didn't. It was not a big factor in our conversations about supporting or opposing resolutions.
Okay. Thank you. So when is the 16th? So maybe by the, what is today, Wednesday?
Today's the 8th.
Maybe
so
On Monday?
next Thursday.
maybe, yes, maybe by Monday if you
Columbus
have.
Day, yeah.
Well, that's
That's
Columbus.
okay. No, but I mean is that helpful to you to, like, because it gives you time to have conversations with people if need
If
be?
we can give you any
Yeah, I mean, the vote is at 4 p.m. on Thursday. I would like to maybe, because we're not discussing it as a group here, I maybe would like to be able to send this worksheet around with like our consensus on it so that before I go to the meeting, we can all see what the vote will be.
And just to get ahead of, anyone who's paying attention at home who may be interested in this sort of thing, if we're kind of gathering consensus behind the scenes, that's not subject to open meeting law?
I was just
Open
going to say,
meetings law?
we need to be careful about how we go about that, because
Right.
we don't want to have, in essence, a vote. I think that's what you're getting at.
I don't want to
Yeah.
step on a open meetings law
Yeah,
landmine.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I
So
guess
there
that's
are
why-
districts who do like this kind of forum where we talk about them in this at a meeting and come to a consensus here. There's some districts that do it in the advocacy committees, and some districts who just pick 3 people to meet and talk about it, and then share it at the next public meeting.
I wonder if maybe that could be an approach where it's, if anyone's got an exception to something on here, that they maybe send it to Jackie, Natalie, Catherine, so that we're not at a quorum. And then you guys could small group it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just trying to think, how do we
Yeah, that
expedite?
Yeah.
works. Does that
but
work?
I mean,
also be
this is really,
respectful
I
of
think, like, this is a school board level conversation. It's something that I think community members may listen to, but it's not, because it's NISBA level,
Right.
it's state level.
You're not actually taking action on anything.
It's
I
not
think we're
actually
taking
action that we are doing. We're just sort of lending like an opinion. I think any opportunity to lend your voice to something is important.
Yeah.
And it's our right and our responsibility to do that. But not everything is equally important or equally, deserving of like multiple chefs in the kitchen, for lack of a better way to describe it. So I don't know if districts who involve like large groups of community members, like in this conversation. I think when it gets closer to the
we
legislative
don't need-
conversations, that's where the
Yeah,
community,
no,
the advocacy community
Yeah,
comes in.
and I think, to Will's point, I think just to be sure that the conversation is happening here, and I think this is the right place for it.
Yeah, I mean, I
think
just see at the top
any
it says
final change.
local board vote. That's what it says,
Ah.
so.
But we're not taking a vote tonight.
I know we're not taking a vote tonight, but given that that's the
But do we
the
have to
language on
take a
here.
vote at some point, or no? That's
No.
just the way they
Catherine-
titled it.
Some districts say to whoever their delegate is, we trust you,
And you're the
Yeah.
vote.
and I'm the vote.
Right.
I
Yeah.
see.
We'll
Okay,
vote it.
so
Well,
it's-
you actually are. well,
It's the
you are
vote that's
vote.
happening. at the
We already
meeting. It's
voted
not the
to
vo-
make you our representative.
Yes.
I think
So
so.
some districts don't really even talk about this at all in any big way. They just say, we trust our
not
delegate
as
to
much
like
as we
know
are.
our district and
Like to
make,
over-engineer.
What are you trying to say, Catherine?
basically,
we're extra in Pelham.
I think the lesson is you should never have shared this with us.
That's what Will's
Will's
like,
got
"Why?
his
Why?"
printed out and his
I
notes.
can only read. Yeah.
It's like I'm in deep now.
I mean, if you share something with me and ask for my opinion, you should expect to get it.
Guys, I appreciate your opinion. That's why I shared it.
All right, so are we in agreement? So we've got the three of you, like if there needs to be a discussion, just to
Yeah.
be, you know, like just to
And we
make
do
sure that
trust
you
you.
have folks to knock around with, and then
So-
we'll send everything,
We'll send
our
a question
thoughts.
to you, and
for
then
what-
you can discuss it with Jackie and Natalie.
And we can, sorry,
And aren't you going away?
I know this is second nature to you, but we only care about 1 through 23 because those are the ones that are being recommended for adoption.
Yes.
24 onwards are
Yes.
not
The
relevant.
recommendation is by Ms. Buzz not to,
Unless you're
Not to
reading
adopt
those
unless you really.
those
want one.
resolutions that are not recommended and one of them jumps out at you and you have some sort of like just
You feel
overwhelming
very
need
strongly
to
about, yeah.
have it included, then we can talk about that. But if you're all okay with it remaining on that not recommended list, then like that's also totally good.
And a
Yeah.
sunsetting question, can I just, when I'm reading these, just pretend it doesn't say sunsetting? Because is that the whole idea?
And more, so this is a
Because-
truncated, like this is the Cliff Notes version. So if you want more information about the resolutions booklet that was sent around,
yeah.
will have more information about the sunset. Like there'll be longer information there or longer explanation. There will be the NISBA consensus remarks in the booklet. So you'll be able to read into what NISBA's committee talked about and why. So if there is sort of questions, then on any resolution that you feel like, well, I'm not sure, but like cross-check it in the resolutions book and the other document, where it will have more background information for you as to like where it came from and what, like there'll probably be a few more sentences.
And so I can do that. I guess I just want to make sure I understand. So if it says sunsetting resolution, NISBA supports incorporating pre-K funding into the school aid formula, et cetera, number 4. And West Putt voted S, which is support.
Yes, we're
Yeah, they-
supporting
Supporting the resolution.
Supporting
not
the
the
supporting
sunsetting is just to
keeping
let
it.
us know that these
This happens to be a
resolutions.
sunsetting
You can
one.
get
Yes.
rid of
Yeah, or I'm just
sunsetting.
going to ignore that.
Yeah. It's just to let us know that
be
like
doing this at midnight,
if it's
so
not voted to be like continued to be supported, it will roll off and somebody will have to reintroduce it.
Got it.
And I'll just say the most eye-catching one of all, I don't know if anyone saw this one, which sadly is not recommended for adoption. NISBA shall advocate for school board members to be recognized for their service via a locally authorized property tax exemption.
You
I
pointed
think that one's
out
from.
to me.
Wait, what number
Wouldn't
is
that be nice?
That one's from Long Island.
30.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not gonna happen.
Is that in perpetuity?
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's not even a good political move.
No.
Hence why it's on the not recommended. I think that was overwhelmingly not
Yes.
recommended.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Ooh, talk about candidate runnings. People would be
I
all
know,
over
you'd
that
have so
one.
many people coming.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank-
Catherine.
thank you.
and
You're
thanks
welcome.
for,
There's a learning curve for all of us on this, right? Because
Yep.
like we haven't really
It's new, right? Yeah.
done it. So I think that's like, this is great. We're like learning something together as a group. We're on this journey.
Right.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm looking at Sid. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.